Third phase of moon.
We have an unidentified flying object.
Eric Von Doniken, welcome to Third Phase of Moon. This is a historic interview. Let me tell you, we have over 200,000 subscribers reaching 100 million views plus. And now Eric Von Doniken is on Third Phase of Moon. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Well, it's a pleasure for me. I'm sitting in Switzerland. It's great to be a member of your circle.
Well, let me tell you, the people are wondering what's going on in the world right now. Is disclosure about to happen? Eric, you've been on the frontier of this for years, decades. Tell us what's going on. What's new?
You see, some 2,500 years ago, the Greek historian Herodotus was in Egypt. And at that time, he wrote that under the Great Pyramid, there is a lake, and the lake with clear water, and inside the lake, there is a sarcophagus. Now, nobody believed the word to Herodotus. In the meantime, and that's the news, the lake has been located. I was down there. There is, in fact, a lake with clear water under the Great Pyramid in Egypt, and in the water is a sarcophagus. Unfortunately, the sarcophagus was empty. So some hundreds of thousands before us, some grave robbers were there.
Tell me about the sarcophagus. Is the Egyptian government about to do disclosure? What's going on over there with the elections and everything else? Are they going to put out that the Egyptians have been close encounters with aliens for many years, Eric?
Of course, yes. But you see, at the moment, the so-called Department of Antiquity has no chief. Nobody has been selected as the new professor, the head of it. Before, it was Professor Dr. Sai Havas, but he's not there anymore. So, concerning the public work, the government of Egypt says nothing. Nothing goes to the public. So, I was in the lake under the pyramid. I know the lake does exist. I know, by the way, that in the meantime, we have located by electronic meanings about 1 kilometer of shafts and little rooms, etc. But the government of Egypt don't go to public. There is no public messages.
What do you
Dr.
think?
J, he's with us right now at Third Phase Moon. We really want to thank him for setting this exclusive interview with Eric. Dr. J, any questions for Eric?
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I'd like to go back to the beginning, but speaking of the pyramids real quick, what do you think they were made for? Are they, some people say that they were an energy source, other people say there's something else. What do you think they were made for?
The thing becomes complicated, and we are on telephone interview, so I have to try to make it shortly. According to official archaeology, the Great Pyramid was constructed by the pharaoh of Cheops about 2500 BC. But there are old Egyptian writers and historians who say something completely different. For example, the writer Ibrahim Abdul al-Makrizi, he lived 1,400 years ago. He wrote clearly, and he knew all the old documents, that the Great Pyramid was constructed before the Great Flood by a ruler with the name of Saurit. And then he says, Saurit is the same person which the Hebrew call Enoch. Now, Enoch is a fascinating figure for me. He was the seventh patriarch before the Great Flood. And Enoch had contact with extraterrestrials, and finally he disappeared in a fiery chariot from our planet. So these antique Egyptian historians, and there is more than one, they say the Great Pyramid was not made by Cheops, but was made before the Great Flood. By the way, all the other historians, if you read Platon or Strabon or Plutarch or Diodor from Sicily, they all say that the old Egyptians did not know who was the constructor of the pyramid, because it was made before the Great Flood. And all these figures I just mentioned were historians, which all were in Egypt some 2,000 years ago. So the puzzle becomes more complicated than we believe.
Eric, let me ask you this question. We at Third Phase of the Moon just recently, via Jimmy Church and some people that did some research via Google Earth, found a massive of what looks to be an alien base of some sort, massive in structure, 1.5 million, 1.5 miles wide, 2 miles wide. Do you think, and this is right off the coast of Malibu, there's a lot of stuff underneath the water. Is there a lot of things that the Egyptian government's not sharing with us, like which is underground? Are there still tombs underneath the city's secrets to be found?
Yes, definitely. Of course. I know some Egyptologists, people who live in Egypt, who are archaeologists, good friends of me, and they say, in reality, we only know about 40% about the ancient Egyptian history. 60% are still under the earth. And you know, in Saqqara, there is the step pyramid. But in the desert under Saqqara, there are kilometers and kilometers of tunnels. And right and left to the tunnels are large niches. I have to apologize for my English, my German, my mother language is German. So there are niches right and left from the tunnels. And in these niches, gigantic sarcophaguses. And really, they are tunnels of kilometers. Open to the public are about 500 meters. So the rest is still a secret.
You know, Mr. Von Daniken, I'd like to go to the beginning. I realized you grew up as a Catholic, and there was a point in your life when you realized that the God that you were taught to believe in, why was he participating in things such as destroying a wall? Can you tell us the turning point in your life where you...
Of course.
Yes.
I was, for 6 years in Switzerland in a Catholic boarding school led by Jesuits. And of course, as a boy, I was a deep, deep believer in God. By the way, I'm still a believer in God. I'm still one of these figures who pray. But God, in my youth, had to have some minimum qualities. For example, God is out of time. God does not have to make an experience, and then he has to wait what the result will be. Being out of time means he knows the result before. Or God would never need a vehicle in which to move around from point A to point B, because God is almighty, etc. So these were qualities of God. And then in my school, we had to make translations of parts of the Bible from Greek to Latin and from Latin to German. And I realized that in the Bible, at least, God uses a chariot, for example, described in the prophet Ezekiel. And Ezekiel even describes detail, like the wings, like the noise, like the feet, like the wheels, etc. Or Moses describes different time when God descends on the holy mountain. It was with smoke, fire, trembling, loud noise, and all these things. So I simply had doubts in my own education. I had doubts in my own religion, and I wanted to find out if other communities in antiquity have similar story. So that was the starting point for me. That's now over 60 years ago, because in the meantime, I'm nearly 80.
Well, Eric, you've been on national media speaking about this for decades now. What has the major media thought of your story? Are they shutting this down? Is it tongue-in-cheek? Or is the word getting out? Third Phase Moon, the people are listening. People want to listen to what you think. Is the major media picking up? Is there going to be disclosure?
Well, you see, in the beginning, and at least for the last 25 years, I was more or less always crashed down. And they were always some debunkers, mostly from the religious side, who said, this is all rubbish, that's all nonsense. We were never visited by extraterrestrials because the distances from star to star are too big. Nobody can reach these distances, and there is no speed of light, and all these natural obstacles. So I was mostly disproven. But in the last 10 years, I am very, very happy the situation has changed. As you know, in the United States, you have this History Channel, and History Channel since 3 years, they have a series called Ancient Aliens, and it's very, very successful. Or in Switzerland, for example, our biggest newspaper, it has the name Blick. And since 3 years, I am writing every week a column in this biggest Swiss newspaper, something which would have been incredible, impossible some 25 years ago. Or I have so many invitations, be it for banks or even organizations like the Freemasons, or I myself not a Freemason, but I have invitation there, or be it on universities. So the situation has changed. I am very, very happy to be alive. My brain functions, and I still run around the world.
All your work is finally being used for Ancient Aliens, and this is a two-pronged question. How do you feel that after 35, almost 40 years, your work is finally being taken seriously here? And also the second part is, when your work first started, your Chariots of the Gods was published, what countries were taking your work seriously?
Excuse me, what countries what?
What countries started taking your work seriously from the beginning, and how do you feel that the U.S. is finally taking your work seriously now with Ancient Aliens?
You see, it all started in March 1968. That's long, long time ago, when a serious German publisher decided to come out with the book. Before the publication in German language, 25 German and Swiss publishers rejected the manuscript. They said, no, this is an impossible hypothesis. This is just all speculation. So they rejected. And finally, a big German company said, we should do it. We should bring these ideas of Mr. von Däniken into public. And then it started. And very, after 5 weeks, it was bestseller #1 on every German best-selling list, including Switzerland and Austria. And the next step was the United States. They came up with Chariots of the Gods. And then was a movie made with title Chariots of the Gods. And it went on and on. By the way, at that time, on the beginning, I was the manager of a first-class hotel in Switzerland, because from my family side, we came from the hotel business. In the beginning, after my high school, I was studying cook, waiter, receptionist, all these things which you need as a hotel manager. Now, after the success of Chariots of the Gods internationally, I give up my career as a hotel manager, and I simply worked strong in what I did. And the result in the meantime are 36 titles worldwide. I'm happy and grateful.
Well, Eric, your work has been extraordinary over the decades again. We at Third Phase of Moon have been working on a movie ourselves right now about the alien abduction phenomenon. We're basing it on true stories of what's going on around this planet right now from people like you. You've had contact with. They're telling you the stories, the scripture, the evidence is there. It's been there for years. And we're doing that right here at Third Phase of Moon. The world is listening. We have actually a correspondent of Third Phase of Moon from London, and he has a question for you. Go ahead, Johnny Webb. Welcome to Third Phase.
Johnny, you there? You're on mute.
Yeah, hi,
Hello.
Mr. Von Däniken. Good afternoon to you.
Yes, I'm listening. I have difficulties to hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. It's the connection here, but I hope you can hear me now.
Now it's okay.
One of my questions is obviously with the overthrow of Mubarak, and I wondered, was there any pillaging of antiquities in Egypt? And you said that Mr. Zawi is no longer the head of antiquities. What's happening there now?
I don't know. I was in Egypt last time 4 months ago, and I have asked what is going on with the Department of Antiquity, and I received no satisfying answer. So I really don't know what's going on.
There was a gentleman that's been doing a lot of work on the elongated heads of Paracas, and he's been doing a few missions to Egypt, and him and a few other gentlemen they've been going down into some caves, and these caves, like you said, they go for miles, but instead of tunnels, these are caves. Do you have any information on that at all?
No, unfortunately not. But all I know is the tunnels beneath Saqqara. I know that there is a lake under the Great Pyramid, and I know by electronic means we have measured 1 kilometer of shafts and little rooms inside the Great Pyramid. You see, some 14 years ago, a small robot of a German engineer entered into a small shaft in the Great Pyramid. It went 62 meters, climbed up inside the pyramid, and came to a standstill before a little door. Then National Geographic Society from the United States constructed a new robot. This new robot made a hole into this door, and they found behind the door nothing but after 23 centimeters another door. So door number 2. And in the past 2 years, a rich man from Singapore financed again another robot. And this robot made a hole into this door. And behind it, we could see with the small cameras, behind it is clearly a room with polished walls. And on one of the walls, you see red writings. But these writings are not hieroglyphic. So they cannot be from the time of Cheops, because in Cheops' time, they were writing hieroglyphics. So we still stand before a mystery. Now, these shafts who go up there, they are so small that nobody can go in there, no human. You always need robot. You see, one side is only 14 centimeters length, so you need high-tech to go in there. And to me, all this makes sense. The ones who planned the pyramid, they were so fantastic planning that they knew exactly only a high technology society can reach these rooms. A society without high tech can never reach these rooms. So the time is right.
Eric Donegan, Blake Cousins here again, Third Phase of the Moon. What you're saying, Eric, is that it's impossible for these structures to have been built back in the day, 8,000, 10,000 years ago. How old are these pyramids, Eric?
Nobody knows. You see, we have all the usual stories which you don't have to repeat here, with wooden rollers and strikes and all these things. And theoretically, it is possible that a bunch of humans made these things. But what is absolutely not possible is the planning, the inside, the engineering, because before you start to make a big construction with many rooms and halls and something, you need the engineers to plan it. And this is absolutely not possible for Cheops' time. You see, Cheops was living about 2400 BC. His father was Snorfu, and Snorfu came right out of the Stone Age. There was no technological evolution for all this. So we still have the mystery, and we are right to ask the questions.
You know, Mr. Von Daniken, several years after you wrote your book, Zecharia Sitchin wrote his book, and I wanted to ask you what you think of his theories. Were they based on yours, or do they conflict? What do you think of his translations?
Well, I knew him very well, and we were together for many, many hours in Switzerland, in Germany, but also in the United States, and I admired him all the time. I was not of his opinion concerning the 12th planet, because in the 12th planet, Zecharia Sitchin suggested that there is an unknown planet in our solar system which has an orbit around the sun of 3,600 years. And that seemed to me impossible. If we would have an unknown planet in our solar system, our astronomers would know it, because we can measure it. We can measure the gravity, we can measure dates, etc. So only in this point, I disagreed with my friend Zecharia Sitchin. In all the rest, his translations of Sumerian cuneiforms and all this, I am absolutely happy with the books of Zecharia.
Do you think that NASA's kind of covering up what's going on in Egypt? It's all mission control, as Zecharia has said in his book, The 12th Planet. that it's like a 3-stage rocket. The evidence is clear. Is there any more new evidence that's coming out through these discoveries?
No, not to my knowledge. But you see, all this cover-up is in reality, I don't call it cover-up. Of course, some scientists and some groups know more than what they give to the public. But it's not directly to call cover-up. They simply are afraid. They don't know, they don't have enough information, and they want to be scientific. To be scientific means always to be reasonable. So if somebody is not reasonable, if somebody is unreasonable, he's ridiculed. So they are afraid to be ridiculed. That's all. They have it's a lack of civil courage. While I am one of these persons which are unreasonable. I ask some unreasonable questions, and I hope the time will give us right sooner or later.
I think, Eric, you're right on the button. If you don't ask the big questions, and if you don't create a controversy in its own way of whether we believe the Bible, Christianity, Mohammed.
You see, this is something. Let's take first. We have the Jewish religion, where it said there is only one God, Yahweh. Then we have the Christian religion, which they say the God has a son, Jesus, and Jesus died for our sins here. Then comes Muhammad, and he says he had visions by an archangel, Michael, and the archangel told him that the Christian religion is completely wrong, and Muhammad has now the newest religion. 1,000 years or 1,500 years later, and this just as an example, we have in the United States a new religion called the Mormons. Now again, an angel was seen to Mr. Joseph Smith, who told them the old religions are wrong. So in this case, we have in 4 cases that said that some angel or some strange being told that the old religion is wrong. So what should you believe? You cannot believe nothing. All what you can believe is outside there, in the beginning of the universe, there is a force which we respectfully call God. But the human religions, this is just human wishes, human dreams, human writings. Practically not much of it is true.
Do you think that the ETs created us just as the Sumerian tablets were said?
Yes and no. It's too complicated. Of course, we have evolution on this planet, and I do not doubt that we are a product of evolution. But there are 2 main questions. What started evolution? And here we have a theory that the original message, you see, the DNA has come from outside. So evolution did not start on our planet. The information was coming from outside. So we grow up in an evolutionary way, and then some thousands and thousands of years ago, an extraterrestrial spaceship arrived here. As expected, they found life on this planet. And as expected, there was one form of life which was the most advanced one. For example, Cro-Magnon man. Now they took one exemplary, and from this one exemplary, simply one cell. They changed this cell. You know, all what you have to change is the basic. There are always 4 bases in the DNA. Every genetic knows, and every genetic would be able to do it. So they changed the cell. They put the cell back into a liquid of nutrition. Later, it was put into the womb of a female of the same species. Now this female gives birth to a child. And the child has, of course, the evolution. It has the body, the skeletons, and all these things. But because of the artificial mutation, the child has something in plus which the rest of the family tree, let's say the gorillas, the chimpanzees, etc., does not have. Now you have a new branch. Soon as you will, if you wish to continue a new branch, you need at least 2 of them, one male and the other female. And then you land in the legend of God created Adam and Eve. So we are product of evolution, but not only. In the course of evolution, there were artificial mutations.
Eric, let me get this straight right here at Third Phase of the Moon, because people want to know the exact point of Homo sapiens, people, humans like we exist right now. I think right now, in my opinion, that we're still continuing in this life and evolution, as you say. But when was the intervention? When was the genetic engineering taking a rib from man to make woman?
I don't know. And that's a question which the genetics should solve. I really don't know. Because of my researches in ancient religions and the ancient mythologies, I know that the gods created humans according to their own image. And we have cases. For example, in the Bible, just read Moses 1:6 or 1:8, you see there are so-called fallen angels. The fallen angels came down to heaven and they had sex with humans. And the same thing in the book of Enoch. Enoch describes that 200 of the guardians of the sky have come down to earth. He gives even the names of 36 of these 200. And these 200 had sex with humans. Now, to come back, if some extraterrestrial species has sex with humans, that would mean that the sexual apparatuses of the others must be the same to us. Other way, you cannot have sex. Sex without a product. So they were similar to us, and that's exactly what the old religion says. God or the gods created man according to their own image. All true, we are product of evolution. It's all not coincidence. The starting point of evolution was coming from outside, and during the course of evolution, some artificial mutation were made. Now you ask for a date. I don't have a date. I know that we were visited at least 3 times in the past. The first time, maybe about 16,000 years from now on. And then again, 2 or 3 times. The last visit, probably about 3,000 years from now on. But I don't know when the mutation took place. That's a question for the genetics.
How many different species do you think have visited us over the years?
I don't know that either. Really, I don't know what kind of species have been here. But more or less, they looked all humanoid. It doesn't matter if they had maybe 7 fingers or 4 arms, but they had a head, they had a body, they had arms, they had legs, they had the ability to speak, etc. But how many different species, nobody knows.
I wanted to go back to, obviously, like you said, they were humanoid. They had to use the same genetic or genitals that we did to have sex. But you mentioned fallen angels. Does that imply bad angels? Do you think that there was bad factions versus good factions that visited us?
Something like angels did never exist. The word angel is simply a translation out of the religious context. You see, when you have designs of beings from outer space, for example, in cave paintings, thousands of years old, you see some beings coming down with wings, and around their head there was something like a halo. Now, in the writings, we call these beings angel. Angels are messengers coming down. And in the Bible and other texts, some of these angels had sex. So they were no spiritual thing. We should change the word angel and write it new, extraterrestrial. And an archangel, what is this? The leader of a group of extraterrestrials. We have in the past different humans who were taken up into the heaven. For example, Abraham was up in the sky, in the heaven. He was teached there, and they brought him back to the earth. Or Enoch, the same figure. Or in the Hindu mythology, Arjuna. They were all taken up. They received some scientific knowledge, and they returned to earth again. So heaven is not the place of happiness. Heaven is not the place which we go after we are dead. Heaven is space. So we change the word like angel, archangel, heaven into space, and so on. We just have to change about 10 of these words, and the old texts become a new meaning, at least according to my knowledge. So angels, real angel, I mean messengers from a real omnipotent almighty God, never existed.
I definitely agree with you there. Every instance or mention of angel in the Bible is more than likely an extraterrestrial. When they mention coming down from the heavens above, I always believe it was just coming from the sky. Bronze shields, that, you know, obviously, like you said, the chariots. But at the same time, I wanted to ask you, do you think that there was good factions, good extraterrestrials visiting us that were giving us the wisdom versus bad ones that came here for a reason unknown, maybe to harm us? Or do you think all of them were here for good reasons?
No, there were bad ones too. Among the book of Enoch. Now, Enoch, you have to understand, is a religious book because it was translated in a religious way. But you can look at the book of Enoch in another way, not in the religious way. So according to Enoch, there was something like a mutiny. Some 200 of these extraterrestrials, they mutinied against their boss, against the commander-in-chief. They came down to earth. They had sex with our women, which was forbidden. And as a result, the highest, which means not God, the highest is the commander of the spaceship, he ordered to destroy the earth by a great flood. So we have different characters there, some good ones and some bad ones. By the way, the survivor of the great flood, at least in the Bible, is Noah. But Noah was the product of an artificial mutation. This you can clearly prove because some 50 years ago at the Dead Sea, there were found Dead Sea Scrolls. And one of the Dead Sea Scrolls is called the Lamech Scroll. Who is Lamech? Lamech was the father of Noah. And Lamech, after some months, he came back to his home tent, and his wife, with the name of Batenosh, had just given birth to a child. And Lamech said to his wife, "This child can't be my child. This is impossible. I was away for more than the month. It's not possible. And the child looks different, has a different skin, different eyes, etc." But the woman, Batenosh, swore to Lamech that no one touched her sexually. She even says, "Not another shepherd, nobody, not a soldier, nobody touched me." So Lamech goes to his own father, that's Methuselah, and tells him the story in the family. Methuselah doesn't know the answer and goes to his father, so the grandfather of Lamech. And this was Enoch, again the same Enoch. Enoch says to his son Methuselah, "Go back to your son Lamech. Tell him that the guardians of the sky have made a changing in the womb of Batenosh, an artificial changing. They did not touch her sexually. And please keep this child, give him the name of Noah, because he will be the survivor after the great flood." So it was all planned.
I'm glad you brought up the Great Flood. First, recent studies have now shown that there was a period of time when Neanderthal lived on the same planet as Homo sapiens. And since every religion has a mention of a Great Flood, I wanted to ask you your perspective of, do you think the flood was to get rid of the Neanderthal to make room for the genetically altered Homo sapien, which you just mentioned?
Yes, I really think so. You see, in Central America, we had the Maya. And in Europe, we had the old Greeks, Plato, Socrates, etc. In his books, Plato clearly says and describes the destruction of mankind by a great flood. But the Maya in Central America say the same thing. But between old Greece and Central America, there was no contact at that time. In South America, we have a tribe which is called the Kogi Indians. They live in Colombia. And the Kogi Indians, they have the same story again of a great flood, which have the Maya in Central America, and which has the Greek in Greece. So there are many other of these examples. The great flood was written and handed down by several societies which had no contact together. And they all say it was a punishment. Some god punished the earth. He wanted to destroy something and restart again.
Johnny, you got a question? Johnny was on mute. There you go. Go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Von Daniken. Sorry, I was actually listening in at the time. A few of the questions I wanted to go back to, because what we're talking about, I noticed that in England we have a lot of crop circles here. And I remember one specifically, which was at Chillerbolton Telescope in England. This crop circle appeared, which seemed to be the representation of an alien form in the same context as what Carl Sagan had sent up on one of the Voyager missions. And so this was placed on the Earth, and it showed the alien, it showed their DNA, their structure and composites, and what they looked like. And they had a bigger head, but they inevitably had, a head and arms and legs. So they did look like us. I wondered what you thought about this.
Of course, as we all know, among the crop circles, we also have some falsificates. And we know the people who make them, who falsificate them. But on the other hand, there are many crop circles which appear just overnight in a short period. And these are fantastic messages by someone, and we are stupid enough not to answer. Our scientific community is always afraid to take things like crop circles serious. I take them for serious, at least the real ones. Somebody is trying to tell us something, and we are too stupid to understand it. By the way, in Peru, there is an old museum in Ica. Ica is a city about 400 kilometers south of Lima. And on this museum, you find engraved stones. Some of them are really old. Others are, again, falsificates. But you can clearly differentiate the engraved old stones and the modern one. And there you find the similar symbols as we have it on the crop circle. On the other hand, I'm a specialist of Nazca in Peru. And in Nazca, we have two designs which again appear in the crop circle. So it is fascinating throughout thousands of years that we receive the same messages.
I definitely agree with you. It shocks me that people dismiss them as natural phenomenon or all of them hoaxes when clearly some are not. Because now they've discovered a way to see if it's real or hoaxed. If the stem of the wheat is not broken, which a lot of the real ones is not broken, it's just growing sideways, that's the proof right there. So nonetheless, as you know, over the last 70 plus years, the activity of UFO sightings, the amount of crop circles have increased, other activities such as, alien abduction, if you believe that. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think the world is coming to? Do you think we're getting ready for open contact?
Yeah. You see, at the moment, and I mean since at least 40 years or so, we are under observation. Somebody is watching us. But again, the scientific community does not take this for real. And as long as the scientific community thinks that we are all cranks and crazy, so it does not enter into the serious press, into the serious media. But we are under observation, and I think we have enough clear indication, not only the UFO cases, some of them are very, very serious and clearly scientifically proven, not only by this, but also by the old traditions. You see, when Francisco Pizarro, he was the conqueror of Peru, for the first time went to Peru, the natives believed that he was a returned god. They all fell on the ground and admired him. Later they understood that he was not God. The same thing in Central America. Francisco Pizarro, he was the conqueror of the Maya and the Aztecs. At the beginning, the Maya believed that some gods are returning. The same thing in the South Sea with James Cook. In Egypt, it doesn't matter what. You can go throughout the world whenever the first contact took place between the whites and the so-called natives, they believed that we are some gods. So the expectation of the return is not a Christian invention. It happened long before Christianity. And today, in our big religions, we have the same situation. Again, I was educated as a Catholic. The Christian community is waiting for the returning of Jesus. But the Muslim community is waiting for the returning of their Mahdi. The Buddhistic community is waiting for the return of Buddha. The great old religion of the Judaism, they are waiting since 5,700 years of the returning of Messiah. So not only the old cultures, which died out, had this expectation, also our today's living religions. Now, to be honest, not every religion can be right. Some of them must be wrong. And I say they are all wrong. Neither Jesus or Mahdi or Buddha or Messiah is returning. Simply the extraterrestrials will return it. They promised it some thousands of years ago to our forefathers. And now, in our time, we are observed again. They are studying our technologies, maybe some of our languages, some of our humans, some of our weapons, some of our virus and bacteria, etc. But we are under observation. And I think it's reasonable to take this for serious and to be prepared for such an event. If we are not prepared, we are simply shocked. That's the shock of the gods. And there is another way. We don't have to be shocked. Simply inform humans what is going on.
I agree. I think open contact is around the corner, and all, like you said, there's no way all these religions can be right. Obviously, they have to be wrong. Most of them have to be wrong. If one of them's right, or like you said, all of them are wrong, and maybe the Messiah that they're all talking about is the return of the Space Brothers. Now, there's a wall in Peru.
John, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I would like to carry on with that same topic there, Mr. Von Daniken, because I was brought up a Christian, and I thought that what I saw in the Bible was that it said this: in the end times, the whole world shall be against Jesus when he returns. And it said that he shall return through the clouds. So my understanding is we're being psyched up on a global scale with media to fear the aliens, to fear these watchers, these observers. And so I've got a feeling that if Jesus was to come back in the clouds, we'll end up shooting him down with a scalar weapon because we're so frightened of what is of the outside coming in. So, do you have any answer to that?
Well, I don't think that Jesus will return. Some extraterrestrials will return. In the Bible, of course, they use the word of Jesus because Jesus, according to their religion, is God or the Son of the God. But not Jesus will return, someone else will return.
There's a wall in Peru. I'm sure you know of it. I don't know the name or the city it's in, but it has 4 layers representing 4 civilizations. The bottom layer is so perfect and the blocks are so perfectly aligned, you can't fit a human hair. Above that is the ancient Inca civilization, which is just a bunch of rocks put together ready to collapse. Above that is where the Spaniards took over in the 15th century, 16th century, and above that is the current one. Out of all 4, including the current wall, the most advanced one is the ancient one. I wanted to ask you, did we have some sort of ancient technology that we lost?
Definitely, yes. You see, every technology has a certain evolution. People have to learn. Once we were cavemen, then we invented the bow, we invented the spear, we slowly learned how to work with the soft stones and then with harder stones. So it's all a question of evolution in technology. And in that case, in the highland of Peru, I know it very well, the evolution of technology is turned upside down because the most perfect blocks are the oldest one, and they have been transported of a distance of at least 40 kilometers, and some of them have a weight of 30 tons. So Stone Age people had no possibility to move, to transport the blocks. They did not have the tools to polish hard rock like granite or andesite. It's absolutely not possible for Stone Age time. Now, when the Spanish conquerors come up to Peru, they were standing before that great wall, and among them was the last Inca ruler. And they asked the Inca ruler, who made this? what is it? Is it a temple, some holy place for you? And the Inca ruler said, no, this is not made by us, not made by our people. The gods did it in one night. So that's the answer of the Inca, the ruler. So they themselves did not did it. Somebody else did it. You see, when our mountain climbers, they go to Himalaya, for example, they have their rucksack, their paper back, and they have some instruments, maybe cameras or lights or flashlights or whatever. They don't want to take all this heavy weight up to the mountain. So they always make a certain basic camp, and they pose it for some instruments. Later they take it back again. The same thing happened for an extraterrestrial crew. They studied some groups. They don't want to move all their technology the whole time. So they simply, with their tools, they made something, a wall, some room, in which they could deposit their high technology, that it is not destroyed, be it by animals or humans. And with their technology, they were able to do it in one night. Now when the gods, the so-called gods, disappeared, the natives came and say, hey, this was a holy place, look at these walls, the god made it, maybe they will return here. So now the natives start to construct temples. So you have a broke in evolution of technology, and you clearly can make the difference what is Inca, what is pre-Inca, and what is not from our planet, because of the tools.
Yeah, I've been following this work from Brian Forrester, who's working out in Cusco in Peru, and he's been sort of like bringing this to attention. He shows elongated skulls of what he calls the Paracas people. I wondered, like, do you think that these are possibly alien hybrids because they're so different than our skulls? Or is it, the old saying that they've got a bigger brain, so they needed a bigger head, What do you think, Mr. von Daniken?
You see, I just make a little detour. In 827, our time, for the first time, the Great Pyramid was open. It was an Egyptian ruler, his name was Al-Mamun, who entered there. And in his biography, they said he found 3 sarcophaguses, and inside were the mummies of 3 human-like personalities. But all the 3 had big, long heads. So this is handed down. Now we know that these elongated skulls, these deformated skulls, were found worldwide, not only in South America or Cusco or Peru, also in Egypt and elsewhere. And we know that some of these elongated skulls were really made by humans because they wanted to look like their gods. So they pressed the head of the babies together in 2 wood plates, etc. But the problem is the brain did not become bigger. If you have a bigger head, the brain still has the same volume as before. The brain does not become bigger. So in the rest of the head, you simply have water. It's a water head, which means it becomes an idiot. So we have to differentiate. We had elongated head, which were real extraterrestrials, the one which were found in Al-Mamun in the Great Pyramid. And we have other elongated head, which were made by the humans. But soon as the children grew up, they have become idiots.
Johnny, you had something else. Go ahead.
It was just that. Yes, it was. It was that with some of the elongated skulls that was found in Cuscus, they noticed that some of the children's skulls that still had this shape to them had teeth, and that some of these children were very young, 5, 6-year-old children, but they had very formed adult-type teeth, but they still maintained this head shape, from a very young age. So it's not as if we're following, say, like an African tribe where they put rings around their neck, and over the years, the neck stretch, these heads were sort of formed from a very young age.
Yeah, that's true. But yes, by the way, gentlemen, there, I have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll wrap this up shortly. Akhenaten, King Tut's father, clearly had a elongated head. Now, do you believe he was an extraterrestrial that started spreading his DNA through his children?
Yes, in this case, yes, because he was a king.
Excellent. Johnny?
I'm still thinking about something at the
No
moment,
problem.
but please carry on.
Mr. Von Daniken, what are some of the best places you visited and seen some of the most technology from the past?
Until today, we have no hard facts which was left on the earth by extraterrestrials. We have wonderful sculptures, we have wonderful temples, pyramids and all this, but this was made by the humans, not by the extraterrestrials. I never found an extraterrestrial artifact, I mean some kind of tool or something technology. I would be happy to have it, would be proud to present it to the scientific community. So all what we work with it are indications. And among these indications, absolutely sensational is the plaque, the tomb plate of Palenque. Palenque is in Central America, in Mexico, and there is a pyramid called the Temple of Inscription. And in 1952, deep beneath this pyramid, a tomb was found. And the tomb was covered by a big stone plate. I mean big, 3.8 meters long, 2.20 meters large. So a big one block. And on this stone block is gigantic chiseling. You see a man sitting on a chair, bending forward, almost like a racing motorcyclist. He has some mask on his nose. He uses his two hands to manipulate some control. And at the end of his vehicle, you see something like a linking flame coming out. Now, in 1952, when this was discovered, archaeologists said it is Pakal. Pakal was the second last ruler of Palenque. And Pakal is entering into the earth. So he's dying. In the meantime, 14 different scientific explanations have come up to explain this mystery. But the newest explanation comes from the professors Stewart and Stewart, because it's the father and the son, and they are the world's most respected epigraphs. Epigraphs means translators from Maya language. And they clearly say now the whole stone has only to do with the universe, with the cosmos. And the person sitting there is in fact Pakal. But Pakal is not entering into the earth. Pakal is entering out to the universe. He's flying away. So for the eyes, this is absolutely sensational. The tombstone of Palenque.
I agree. There's so much evidence out there. It's just a matter of time before we wake the world up. Just a few more questions. What is next for you? I do know you're speaking at Contact in the Desert, which is why we're interviewing now, because we are giving away one ticket per week per show and featuring one speaker. What are you going to be telling people, aside from going in depth of what we're speaking, at Contact in the Desert, as well as what's next for you after that?
Well, you mentioned Contact in the Desert, Joshua Tree, and between the 3rd and the 5th October, there is in Minneapolis a Paradigma Symposium. And on October 11th, I am in Virginia Beach speaking at the Edgar Cayce Foundation. But this is all open to the public.
Excellent.
Well, that was my last question, if you don't mind me asking, Mr. Von Daniken. The Edgar Cayce mentioned before he died that they would eventually find something in the heel of the Sphinx, and I noticed that they found a small hole and opened it. Do we know what was inside there?
No, they found a small hole, but only by measuring from upside.
I'm not so sure, Blake. What do you think? Well, we're going to try to get, the comparison photographs. It's not, we're not sure if we're going to share this on Third Phase Moon. All we know is there's another photographer there that captured pretty much the same image, but there's a lady in the background holding a long lens for taking shots of the event. So whether it's a distortion of the lens or maybe even the lady herself is a shapeshifter, all I know is it's an incredible photo. We always put out this kind of stuff when we get it here at Third Phase Moon. It's not really up for me and Brent to decide what it is, because we have our own opinions of what it is. But hey, everybody out there in the world, they have their own opinions, and we just want to share it right here at Third Phase Moon. That's what it's all about, sharing it to the world. Brent, this other video, we say it shocks the world. It came in via Google Drive. Somebody sent this into our email address via Google Drive. We downloaded the video, wanted and was blown away by it. Wanted to get contact with the person, found out the video was not able for preview anymore. So we decided, well, we got it now. We're going to share it right now, exclusive. We put it up, and people, again, are saying this is a drone. of some sort. Drones, there's no quad choppers going on. You don't see any quad choppers underneath. Usually a drone has some kind of a propulsion device. We don't see any here. And also the reflections and the refractions of the light. You can't fake this kind of stuff. Brent, what do you think of these refractions besides the element of this, the ship itself? The light actually, it tells the tale. That's where the proof of smoking gun goes off. There's no CGI going here to try and produce a lens flare that's producing 1 billion pixels on the TV screen right there. It's fairly impossible to do. I don't even think top Hollywood FX artists out there could even pull this off. It'd be too time-consuming. It'd probably take a year to render something like that. The lens flare is what seals me, and I really believe this is a really fantastic catch, and some of the best that we got here right at third phase of Moon. Well, absolutely. I think people are still they're comparing it to Ed's footage. Ed, just last year, the phenom of ufology, of he's gotten the best UFO photographs, videos, I think, so far of 2013. People compare this to Ed's footage. It's not Ed's footage, but definitely looks like what Ed's captured. So there's the same basically kind of looking ships in different parts in the world. This is the real deal, people. In our opinions, this isn't a drone, and it's definitely not CGI. Something's in the sky. It's unidentified. I don't know what it is, but it definitely looks extraterrestrial in origin, if you ask me. Let's take some callers from around the world right now. And the number to call in to talk to Third Phase of Moon Live is area code 347-934-0378. Let's go to a person by the name of Thank You 292 joining us right here. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Blake, this is Sammy. How's it going? I haven't called in a long time.
Hey, Sammy, you're doing good, man. We're glad to be safe after that kind of tropical storm hit us kind of hard. It was quite scary at 4 or 5 in the morning when those 65, 70-mile-an-hour gusts was coming through.
Yeah, definitely. I watched both of your videos on that, and I heard what y'all said about how there hadn't been an earthquake in 100 years or something, and you got 2 earthquakes on that day. That's just really strange.
Correction on that. We have a lot of earthquakes here in the Big Island, and I think in 2006 we had a 7.0, and it pretty much rocked for a good 1 minute. I thought the ground was about to liquefy. We're on the largest active volcano in the world right now, Kilauea, but it's the first time in 100 years, since 1987, I think, that a hurricane actually hit the Big Island of Hawaii, and that's that was my statement. So we had 2 earthquakes and a hurricane in one day. It was quite it was a wild day. That hey, welcome back to the show. What else did you look at some of these videos that we put out? Sounds like you keep on.
Yeah, definitely. I watched that video, and it was definitely interesting as to what it is, and definitely the drone technology with that DJI Phantom and all that stuff. People could make some pretty complex looking drones if they were doing it. But yeah, it's definitely interesting footage, and I always appreciate y'all are always trying to pilfer through all the videos that you get and let us see the best ones for sure. I'm always watching the show. I just haven't had the time to call in, and but yeah, definitely it's interesting footage to say the least. Third Phase of Moon is really helping a lot of people not feel like they're alone in this whole tribulation experience of disclosure, because it really has been. It almost reminds me of the prohibition of cannabis. It was demonized for so long, and now here we have 25 states that have medical marijuana, and it's starting to slowly but surely, come into the consciousness of the public. Like, hey, this is not such a bad thing here, but definitely. We're entering that age where drones are just everywhere, and then that's another thing. Drones are going to be able to capture UFOs, and then definitely be able to see them better. You know what I mean? Like it's these DJI fans. Go ahead.
We've released that video from Utah in the Utah hills. I forgot the credit, but we have it on Third Phase. We're going to play it we're going to put it on this overlay right now and give credit where credit's due. That's what we like. Is if anybody shoots it, there's so much rip-off bots out there on YouTube. Just they bot it, and it's just an enigma, just really bad on people stealing people's content out there and not even getting permission from the people that shot the UFOs. That's all we ever try and do at Third Phase is give them the credit that they deserve. And some people just don't want to give their identity up, and we'll never upload anything without permission, and that's what we do right here at Third Phase. And you're exactly right that we feel humbled by the people that have come forward and shared their stories for the first time. They don't even tell their husbands, wives, family members, and they come out on live radio just as kind of an anonymous place to just let it out and feel that they're not going to be scrutinized behind it. But and bring it up that Utah sighting. It's definitely he shot it with his, I think it's a quad chopper 1080. I'm not exactly sure. High tech. I think a $10,000 rig, and then he caught this streak of lights coming across the ridge mountains. People say it's a sun flare or a glare, but we zoom in on it. You see two different things. It's unidentified. Did you get to see that video we posted up?
No, I actually didn't. I'll go check it out, and I definitely wanted to also give you guys kind of an invite. And I'm very, very familiar with a lot of. I live in Texas. I live in Dallas, Texas, but I definitely would love for you guys, or to come out to Texas sometime and visit some places out here like Aurora. I don't know if you've ever heard of that story. There was a UFO crash in the city of Aurora in like the 1890s. There's actually a historical plaque that's in the town, and here in Dallas, the UT, they have a little college here, pretty well-known college, and they actually have NASA. They develop a lot of parts for NASA spacecraft here, and it's been said that the UT went down there, excavated the soil, they found something, they brought it back to the college, and there's some really interesting sightings. I don't know if you guys saw that, but it was on national news. Several airline photographers or airplane enthusiasts, they were in Amarillo, which where my family is from, and that's where Pantex is. That's where it's the only nuclear assembly and disassembly plant in the whole United States. And there was a boomerang-shaped craft that was flying straight towards Pantex, which is the United States' most protected facility out of all the things that they have. But definitely y'all should get over here and see what's going on, because there's a lot of history in Texas, and there's a lot of states that it borders. You got New Mexico and Texas border. Y'all could head out there, and that's where Roswell is. And I would definitely love if y'all, and I know that y'all spend so much time and it takes so many resources to do that kind of stuff, but I just think that y'all have such a great following to where that I would support. I would give you $20. If you said, hey, we're trying to go on this tour and get some really good footage, because y'all's footage in Hawaii is just beautiful. I mean, y'all have got great photographers.
Well, the thing is, we get videos from around the world, and I think with our connections through Third Phase Moon, we're reaching almost 200,000 subscribers. We got a lot of support out there. One of these days, Third Phase Moon, and we will do our on-location ground reporting. And I know with people like you, we're like, hey, we're going to go to this part of the country. We're going to go to this part of the world. Can we have a place to stay and be set up, because we're only got limited funds. We're not the big major network guys that come in. It's just a small crew. Hey, do you mind if we hang out, kind of thing? And I appreciate the offer. If we ever come to Texas, which I'm pretty sure we will, why not? We should go to these major hotspots and do on-the-ground investigation reporting for sure. Hey, man, stick around. We're going to take some calls. They're kind of lining up, so we're going to get right to it.
Oh, definitely.
Let's go to area code 724. Thanks for joining us. Third Phase Moon, you're live. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is Vince. Hey, but I live in the southwestern part of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and this is about 2 years ago, maybe about 3 years ago now, and I'm sitting inside my house, all right? My mother comes in now. She never believes about UFOs. She's totally against it. She tells me, hey, come outside and take a look at this. I live on the top of a really big hill. I can see for about a mile and a half out. I see this circular craft floating above the other side of this hill. It's a Christmas tree farm, and it goes into a cloud. So I sit out there for 15 minutes. All right, nothing came out of the cloud, and next thing I know is this cloud comes right over my house, about 50 yards away, breaks apart. Inside this cloud, no lie, is a circular, I guess you'd call it a pancake disc.
Wow, we always go into drones. Is it a drone? And some of these questions seem a little redundant, but let me ask them. Did it make any sound?
Well, it didn't make any sound, and I was hearing about the drone call earlier. And here's the thing, though. Well, I can't see it was being a drone. There's actually there's an Air Force base probably about an hour drive from here, big Air Force base. And the Apaches literally fly over my house, AC-130s. I could see the guys' faces. That's how close I am to when they fly over. And this thing, I actually had my video camera. I was recording it, and when I played it back, unfortunately, nothing came up on the camera. But as it slowly floated away, only way I could explain it is if it was like a flashlight in the sky. It just turned invisible as it slowly drifted away.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. What did you, were anybody with you at the time, or were you by yourself? And that's kind of strange. Some people do see these things with the naked eye, and then when they start to film them, there's nothing on the camera, and then vice versa, it goes the other way, where you don't see it, but they're filming something, and then something comes up.
I mean, it was 65 yards away. I mean, UFOs are part of my hobby, and I keep target setups for my archery, 25, 50 yards, and this thing was 65 yards away. It just slowly, when the cloud broke up, you just saw it there, just hovering. The only way I could describe it, 10 yards wide, but it had like these little black spots. Maybe there were windows, but if you just took a pancake and painted it silver, that's what it looked like, floating in the sky, and just slowly drifted away.
Man, I'm jealous.
yeah. I mean, I played back my video footage on my computers, and I can't find anything on it. That's something else. A lot of people, need to start doing. Keep talking about the UFO phenomenon, because I know my family members. A lot of people just throw you under the bus when you talk about it. It's really unfortunate.
Well, they just they don't understand it, and it's kind of a sad world when people are so close-minded to the UFO phenomenon. It's an unidentified flying object. Get over it. It could be reverse-engineered alien technology. It could be extraterrestrials. It could be military, just straight up, 40 years in advance, that they're just you're not sharing with the public, only the way they want to do it, in this subtle way to kind of keep people mystified. That's other theories, but at least have an open mind to that.
Just think about the military technology. I mean, could it be invisible? Have you seen the video in Japan of the invisibility cloaks? The mirrors?
I know they're mastering it right now, pretty much. You could put the suit on and pretty much project whatever's behind you in front of you on your clothing, and therefore you become the predator now. Predator does exist. That technology's out.
Yeah, I mean, you can look all the way back to the 40s. Do you study New Schwabia in the German Third Reich after the war ended?
No, go ahead. Enlighten us again. We in the world.
Well, it's really interesting. I highly doubt that Hitler committed suicide, but he actually went on a submarine down to New Schwabia. It's in Antarctica on the tip. Just type it on Google and it'll come up. Anyway, after the war ended, about 3,500 to 5,000 Germans actually were down there mining nuclear weapons and UFO technology. And I believe it was 1953. Type in UFOs 1953, go over the White House. I'm sure you've seen that video.
They buzzed it, no doubt about it. Bunch of blue orbs.
Yeah, well, it might have been the Nazis in Antarctica. Admiral Byrd, he was supposedly made it to Hollow Earth a few years before this at the North Pole. And when he went down there, it was supposed to be an expedition just for animals and stuff like that. Next thing you know, Americans get down there, and we actually took a couple hundred casualties and then went back only after a few short weeks.
What the reign of Hitler and that whole Third Reich and this World War II, just the advance of technology just through the military war machine, it just happened too fast. Where did all this technology come from? It just doesn't make sense. Through the years of man, we've been around 2-3 million years, and then all of a sudden we're building transistors and missiles that could track, and it boggles the mind on how fast things came along. And did it happen just because of the war machine? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, it's called Operation Paperclip. It's really interesting. It was kind of a running joke back in the day in the 40s and 50s during the Cold War, who got the better German scientists. And I studied their technology really closely, and just some of the United States technology they haven't just recently had, probably in the 80s, 90s, caught up to what the Germans had during World War II.
And then basically, thanks to Hitler, we grabbed all his best scientists, and now America reaped the benefits from Hitler's ideas of taking over the world and having the perfect society. But hey, we got to thank him in one sense that if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have the power we have right now, being basically, America, the United States.
Yeah, it's great. Back in the new Schwabi, that the UFOs, that's what actually some of the reports got leaked, that these UFO ships, the Nazi Bell, actually was taking out men on the decks. And there was actually a couple submarines that got emerged by Argentina. I think British forces made some submarines come up, and they were carrying mercury and cigarettes for a couple thousand people. It's the Vinamas.
Apparently, Hitler didn't kill himself, and the top people, the top brass, hid out in Antarctica for many years, and then apparently they took off to the dark side of the moon, and that's where they're still based. Not exactly sure if that's the proper or correct theory, but that's some of the conspiracy out there. What do you think of them moving to the? Did you hear of any of that out there?
I've looked into it. It's really interesting. Well, I think it was 2008. The Navy set up a satellite to take photographs of the moon. If I'm correct, I believe they took 8 million photos, and they only declassified 250,000, and it was pretty much the same photos. But the thing is, when I study these photos, all the smudge marks and the hollow points they put on the tip and the bottom of the moon, kind of like a white Sharpie, I guess you could say.
What's interesting is you just brought that up. This 8 million photos, the satellite that went around the dark side of the moon. We were about to interview somebody, apparently, who was involved with that whole project, and he was about to come forward on Third Phase of the Moon because he saw the video when they went around the dark side of the moon, and he was about to say that he saw the big city. There's a city on the dark side of the moon. It's populated and it's massive, and the man that designed it and was in charge of it, can't reveal the name. He hasn't come forward, but hey, I could say that I heard this, and I'm going to say it to the world. I heard this.
Did he say anything with domes or covering the area? One of my things that I keep questioning is oxygen on the moon. Could it be beneath the moon's surface? And it's, being a realistic question and all.
Well, that's one of the questions I would have liked to ask him, that's for sure. And I hope one of these days he will come forward and share his story and his involvement with the whole thing and have some backup on top of that as well. It's a fantastic claim, and I took it very seriously. We're trying to get that exclusive interview. It was about a year ago when I was introduced from a friend of mine that was a friend of the person that built this satellite system to go on the dark side of the moon. Why don't we get to see it? Why isn't it in the archive very often? Don't they have satellites going around the moon all the time? Why don't we just get an easy satellite going around the moon? Does it even exist?
My whole thing is government disclosure. You have, when I put myself in a government shoes, thinking about the plan. To make sense, if you're the most powerful, say you're the top 10 powerful people in, in the United States. You disclose the information, people are going to ask questions. But by keeping the people under control, military, police, keeping the UFO, keeps the money flowing, just exposing too much information, just keeping the population going, almost like keeping everyone in the matrix, Don't let anybody break out of the herd mentality.
They can't give us too much. The human race would get too bored, overload. People forget so quickly about things. It's amazing from, major events, and then months go by, and it's like, oh, what's the next news cycle? So there's this mega structure right off Malibu. I was just asking Brent what to say. We're not claiming it's a mega alien structure. We're just saying it's definitely amazing. It's on Google Maps and it's peculiar. What if it were the real deal and it was exposed on CNN, this ancient alien that's been around for 50,000 years? It's massive. I bet you in a year from now people wouldn't even care about it too much.
Yeah, I remember reading this one time in one of my suitcases on files upon the moon. It was the time before the moon. I don't remember who wrote it or what time period it happened. They talked about how the moon just appeared one day, like it was built.
Interesting. Hey, people say that dinosaurs had been around not too long ago, that they basically went extinct 3,000 years ago versus 70 million years ago, the Jurassic period.
It's funny. I was just looking into that actually earlier this week again, and the big thing is you look at Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great. I came across some things about they're killing them off. Those dinosaurs. One of the problems was they'd run through your troop formations, or I think they're called Tyrannosaurus. The pterodactyls, the ones that fly, correct? But they come down and they pick up the troops.
Why do they have wings?
Yeah, they come down and they pick off troops. So when they're in the caves, it'd smoke them out, and the archers would take them out. The humans killed them off just because they're hurting the military formations.
Yeah, again, and even to say that the pyramids are only 8,000 years old. Apparently, they've been around for 24 to 30,000 years is what some people say. What is it? The scale. They do this. How they modify what age something is. They do it's a flawed system. A carbon dating. And the carbon dating system is some people say they have universities that claim that the carbon dating system's flawed and it doesn't work.
There's so many questions. Even the pyramids of Egypt, they're moving 10,000 ton pieces and putting them up. Coral Castle, that kind of gives us a glimpse of what happened.
Talk about this for as long as it took to build the pyramids just to even understand the mystery. It just goes on and on. It's quite amazing. Hey, stand by. Let's go take another caller right now. Welcome to the show. Area code 323. You're live, Third Phase of Moon. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. Open round table. Go ahead. Well, let's go to is Texas still there?
Hey, I'm still here. Hello, unmute me. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to really clarify some of the stuff he was talking about with the Nazi things. The operation was actually called Operation High Jump, and it was the largest expeditionary force that America had assembled prior to World War II. And, it's definitely interesting, and definitely watch the new Captain America movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it basically shows, the NSA had, been infiltrated by Nazi scientists, and it's definitely interesting. And another thing I kind of want to bring up, some technology here that Third Phase of Moon really needs to get into is they have these little telescopes. They're about $8,000, and you can actually watch the sun. They're very high tech. You can set them up on your roof. They have motorized things, and you can just point it straight at the sun and get really high resolution, constant monitoring of the sun, and not to mention, constant monitoring of the moon. And, I'm sure there would be tons of Third Phase of Moon listeners that would just sit there and watch the the cameras roll at all hours of the day. But yeah, thanks for letting me hop back on. I'll definitely stay here, and I love what the callers are bringing up, and that story was just fantastic, caller. I mean, wow, just a great story. That's why I come on this show, because you just hear things that you're just not going to hear anywhere else, especially even on YouTube.
Anything to say to that? Appreciate that. That's right. 626 called in. Amazing insight. And like you said, we just keep the lines open. We have no pre-show of what we're going to do. We just kind of just let the phones roll and let people share their story. 626.
Hey, what up, Blake?
Hey, welcome to the show. How's it going?
I'm good. My name's I'm Pee Wee. I've called before, but I think maybe like 2 weeks ago, someone was sharing, I think maybe an implant or something, but I had a recall, and all I remember is counting backwards and falling asleep, and I have this scar on my head. That hair doesn't grow in that part. Supposedly, it was supposed to grow back, but at the same time, I think it was anything to do with doctors. That's what my mom was telling me.
So you got a scar on your hand. You've had it ever since you were a little kid, and your mom explains, was it a medical procedure?
Well, she went to the doctor to explain what the scar is all about, and they're, your hair is gonna grow, but like I said, I just recall, like if I was in a bed, looking up, lot of light, and like if someone was performing something on me.
Well, you know what, Pee Wee, it's quite interesting you bring up the scar phenomenon. We are going to be doing an exclusive update on, so basically part 2, the alien abduction diaries. We had people come forward, and we had our camera crews interview right there on location in Los Angeles, people of their fantastic alien abduction experience. And we're going to do part 2, the Alien Abductions Diaries, part 2 coming up or in production this week. Hopefully we could get the whole documentary up in a couple weeks here quite quickly. And there's this one case of a person that's going to be sharing his story in regards to his abduction experience and strange handprints on his body. So some pictures exclusively. He says that there's the alien handprints that have, basically, left impressions on his body. Quite interesting. We're really excited to give that to Third Phase of Moon, for free. We're going to put it out there, the whole entire documentary, Alien Abductions, the Diaries, Part 2. Everybody stand by for that. I wanted to thank everybody for joining us right here at Third Phase of Moon. It's been an incredible radio show, a lot of new information, incredible insights. We're going to be posting this video on YouTube exclusively. Everybody stand by for that. It's going to be an incredible radio show. I wanted to give everybody some last words here. All the way, thank you, 292. Any last words to the viewers from around the world?
I really appreciate y'all guys letting me come on the show, and sorry I didn't have any, I could go into a lot of detail about some previous experiences, but I definitely haven't had any extraterrestrial contact in quite some time, and I think it's just because I definitely, I hate to say it, but I fear them in a way, because they're just so amazing, and you guys are amazing too, and thanks for letting me come on, and thanks for the other caller telling his story. It was very enlightening.
Hey, thank you so much, everybody. That's what we do right here at Third Phase of Moon. Share the people's stories, share it to the world. Don't be afraid. The world's not that big. We're all actually quite
in a small place. Now that we're all connected with the internet, we are open to share the stories, and it gets out fast. We got the following, so if you want to get it out to the world, you got something incredible, submit it to us, and you're going to do it to 200,000 subscribers around the world via our Facebook. We've reached our max with 5,000 in our Google+, Twitter. When you talk to Third Phase Moon, you are talking with the world. So everybody, again, keep your eyes on the skies, be safe, and we'll see everybody again next time. My name's Blake Cousins.